Welcome on site to On Deck Studios here in Litchfield, Connecticut. It's a conversation today about the life, the music, and the career so far of pianist and vocalist Simone Marie. Simone Marie is here. She graduated Hofstra University last year, where she studied jazz and commercial music. Now she attends the Hart College and is part of the Masters in Music Jazz Studies program. The 22-year-old recently released her debut disc titled Just the Beginning. She joins me now for a conversation about life and music. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this. I greatly appreciate it. Why this for you now? Why did it all come together at this point in time?
Well, I really didn't decide to start writing for myself until probably my last year of my undergraduate at Hofstra. I think I was afraid to write. I felt like I didn't have enough life experiences that I could really sit down and write a song about. Um, and one of my professors in school really just told me, like, you're a good writer. You should keep pursuing this. And finally, when I had the time to, I just figured, you know what? I'm going to start writing. So I decided to start writing. And it wasn't really like all right, I want to record an album. It was more, I came to Tracy here to do some videos to send to places where I wanted to get gigs. And then it was like, well, I have these original songs. How about we record them? And then it was the whole evolution of, you know what, let's do an album. And now here we are.
I want you to speak to your voice being one of your instruments and how your voice is an extension of your life and who you are.
It's an interesting question. Anyone who plays an instrument, whether it's guitar, whether it's saxophone, whatever your instrument may be, you're not using something that's inside of you to make music. Saxophone, you're pressing the buttons, and it's not to say that people don't express their feelings when they're playing different instruments, but it's a different feeling to have something that's inside of you. And I tell like students that I teach, your voice is inside of you, so you feel more vulnerable sharing it with the world. And I feel for the longest time I loved singing, but I definitely didn't have a lot of confidence in myself as a performer, as a person, just being Simone. I definitely didn't have the confidence. And I think growing up, being in school by myself, figuring out who I am as a person really helped me find my voice and how I want to use it to express my feelings to other people. And, the voice is a very delicate instrument for a lot of people. And I really have grown to appreciate being able to use my voice in something that's inside of me to express myself to an audience.
When you bring the two together in concert, voice and piano, for you, it's a symbiotic, synergistic relationship. How so?
Playing the piano and singing with it is just an experience in and of itself because you're sitting there, you're playing the notes that you want to play, and you're singing how you're feeling along with it. Standing up and singing for me is one thing because I'm standing there in front of an audience, but also being able to accompany myself. And what I want to hear as an accompanist for myself is a great experience. And I do one side of expressing myself with my voice, but then also being able to express myself through my hands is, it's like all of my feelings that I've ever like kept inside can just come out. And especially being an introvert, um, it's different being able to express it with my hands and my voice rather than like sitting there and just telling someone, this is how I feel.
So, you say it gives you that vessel, that vehicle, because you're a little bit of an introvert. So, with that said, music being your second language, how do you find music to be a sacred, safe place for you to be?
um, Music gives me a way to express myself that I find difficult to do as a human being talking to someone. A lot of my relationships with other people, um, it's hard for me, and no matter how close they are, for me to sit there and say, this is how I feel, whether I'm happy, whether I'm sad, whether I'm upset. I can wear my emotions on my face, but telling people this is how I feel is difficult for me. So music is that vessel for me because it's pretty much me letting out all those emotions that I don't share with other people. And even through songwriting, um, you know, putting the words down that are difficult for me to say to a person is it really takes stress off my shoulders because I feel like everyone has to get their feelings out somehow. And I always tell people, oh, you should talk to someone about it. You should tell them how you feel, even though I should really start taking my own advice. But, I do it through my music. And, you know, every song has a story. And singing really helps me be able to share how I feel, whether it's just with myself or whether like people listen to me and they're like, oh, that's how she's feeling.
So you have these insecurities, and your music and what you feel within, you now have found this to be a way to uh, let all this give you wings to fly, so to speak.
Yes, definitely.
Where do you want it to take you next from here?
I want to be, and everyone tells me I'm crazy for it, but I want to be a musician. I want to be an artist. And, my dream isn't to be like the Lady Gaga of the next century or like be like this big pop star. I just want to be able to write my songs and write my feelings and have an audience to share that to. And I don't expect a giant audience, but, be able to make a living with what I can do.
Can't help this feeling you give me. Used to be on fire. The flame keeps on burning on higher, higher, higher. Used to be on fire. I can't help myself anymore, anymore. So let the flame shine high.
So now we're going to go from your own songs, your compositions, from that arena to a theater where you're interpreting other music, jazz standards, other pop standards, classics. You still hear those songs from somebody else in your mind's ears. However, you want to leave your own fingerprints on that song. Talk about your interpretations and how you do that.
A good example is Wicked Game, which is on the album. It's not my song, it's a cover that was originally done by Chris Isaac. And, whenever I approach any cover of a song, I don't go and seek to sound like the artist. I feel like it's important to appreciate the melody, appreciate the chords in the song, appreciate what the artist was looking for. But at the end of the day, for me, it's not I want to sound like Chris Isaac or I want to sound like Ella Fitzgerald, whoever it is. For me, it's taking a song and putting my own twist on it. And what I've learned from a lot of mentors in my life is, just reading the lyrics and taking that and taking it and connecting it to your life and something that happened in your life. Wicked Game is about someone who they fell in love with and they thought like this was the person for them and then the person ended up hurting them and it was a wicked game for them. They didn't want to fall in love with them, but they did and then they ended up getting hurt. And I've had that experience in my life. I've definitely had strong feelings for someone, definitely wanted to be with them and then they break your heart and it's taking my experiences and putting it into a song. And a lot of times I like to take my lessons that I learned in jazz and pop and through my piano lessons and voice lessons and just giving that song a little tinge so that it sounds more like, oh, that's Simone, not Chris Isaac.
And I don't wanna fall in love. No, I don't wanna fall in love with you. With you. Nobody loves no one.
You have a plethora of songs in your repertoire. So you have other people's compositions and you have your own. When you came to decide what songs would go on this CD, you have to whittle them down to make certain you get the songs you want to record. What drew you to record these particular songs for this CD?
Fly to You was a song that, I just felt like I was really proud of it because it was my first song that I really felt like was a great song. And sharing it with other students and colleagues, they were like, you did a great job with this song. So I was really proud of that and really wanted to make sure that I was able to share that with an audience. Pretty Mask, what drew me to that song was it's so different from the other songs on the album. It's kind of like a blues, but like a funk, but like a soulful song. And I really, all in all, my whole point of view on the album was to get all these different songs that I wrote, not all these same sounding songs that you might find on albums today. So that was pretty much my main thing was I want every song to be somewhat different but to still have the stamp of my name on each one.
You reach down, I suspect you do, all musicians do. They reach down and plumb the depths of their creativity within inside themselves, mentally, visceral, heart, their influences. So they take all that and they meld it all together, which you do, all musicians do. But yet they have to have their own sense of style. Talk about all that.
I feel like for me as a musician, it definitely took me a little while to find my voice and my sound. I went through phases of being in love with Broadway to being in love with pop, and now it's being in love with jazz music. So I feel like going through my life and being exposed to music for so long, it was taking all of those things and just combining them to make my own sound. And what I appreciate today from doing that is a lot of people come up to me and they're like, like, what type of style would you categorize yourself? And honestly, like, I can't say, oh, I think I'm pop. Oh, I think I'm folk. Oh, I think I'm jazz. I feel like I take all of those elements and I put them in my music, but, I feel like my sound is me, is Simone from all of my life experiences and all of the lessons that I've learned through music.
So then in the Simone Marie Book of Life, I mean, we're only a few chapters in, really, so to speak. So in that book of life, it's a diary in a lot of ways. You're composing this book, but you're also making copious notes along the way. So you're putting it all together. And then exponentially speaking, we look at that book later on in life. But for right now, your book of life, your diary, and you're putting these sketches in at first. How do you read it so far?
It's hard because I like to live in the present. Not to say that I don't like to look at past experiences and like how I was 5 years ago. Um, but I feel like right now in the book, it's like the album title says, it's just the beginning. And I think I have really come so far on my journey so far, but I still think I have so much to learn and so much more to experience that will only heighten my music and heighten how I write and compose that will just make, the all of the next chapters in the book all the more interesting.
We never want to think of what we do as a Sisyphean project. We're pushing that boulder up the hill, it keeps rolling
Yep.
back on. It's Herculean, it really is. If you would imagine what you would have done if you couldn't have done this, what would you choose to do?
Can it still be in the music realm
Of
or
course.
you know, I I've learned over the past year that I've started teaching kids piano and voice. I have said for the longest time, no, I don't want to teach. My dad's like, "Well, why don't you teach? You're smart." No, I don't want to teach. I don't want to teach. But you know what? Watching these young kids who are like 9 or 10 years old and watching their fascination with music is like it just brings me back to when I was learning music. And it's weird being in the position of someone teaching someone when I've been the student for so long, and I've been the one looking up to the teacher for so long, like, wow, I want to be like them. So it's really different being in the seat of the mentor and people and these kids looking at you being like, wow, like I want to be like them. And it's definitely like an experience in of itself. It's frustrating, it's rewarding, it's exciting to see these kids and how they look at music. And it's really made me come around and think, like maybe teaching isn't so bad. And whether it's being like a professor in a college, whether it's opening up my own practice of teaching, like I'm definitely open to that now, which I never thought I would be.
When you think about people who you would respect and admire, there are always quotes that get engraved into our minds, and we carry that with us. Give me one quote that somebody early on spoke to you and it resonated to this day.
I think when you ask that, it's not really more the like one singular quote. It's more the stories that they would share with you and their hard work that they had to do to climb up the ladder to be successful in their mind. And I had this one teacher who, he was very difficult on me, and in the moment, it's like, this guy freaking sucks. He makes me feel like a terrible musician. But you know what? As our relationship grew over time, I learned to respect that. And, at the end of the day, he wasn't doing it to tear you down and make you feel like a terrible musician. He was doing it because he wanted you to work harder and he wanted you to be a better musician at the end of the day. And I really appreciate his story that he told me when we were in his office one day. And he just told me his story of how he moved to New York. He was in a studio apartment, tiny thing. Pretty much all he had was his bed, and that was it, and his piano. And he had almost no money, but you know what? He really had that drive to want to be a pianist, to want to be known for his piano and the way he played. And I mean, today he is a very accomplished jazz pianist. I respect him on so many levels for all of the hard work that he did. And just remembering his story kind of resonates with me because there were times when he didn't want to do it anymore. There were times when he was like, "Well, why am I even doing this?" And I think that's kind of the push that makes me keep going is I might feel down right now. I might feel like I might want to not want to do music anymore, but it's the drive that makes you want to keep going. It makes you want to keep pursuing what you want.
Lastly, where's it all going for you when you think about the ultimate career for Simone Marie? You see what in your mind's eyes?
I want to be a person who is able to make a living off doing what they love, and that is creating music. And times are hard right now for performing, for gathering an audience, but that's not going to stop me from continuing to pursue my end goal. And at the end of the day, like I listen to artists now, they're not these top singers who make like billions of dollars, but you know what? They're able to sit there and they're able to make a living doing what they love. I want to be able to be a musician and not have to dread what I do every day. There's people today who have their jobs and they hate it. I don't want that for myself. I want to do my passion and be able to be a musician at the end of the day.
Just the beginning, the CD. Simone Marie, all the very best, and thank you for doing this. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Here at On Deck Studios in Litchfield, Connecticut, thank you for joining us. May your happiness increase always in all ways. Thank you so much.